Alright, I finally got that jigsaw that I ordered way back in November last year, and thought I'd do a quick video about it because it's a real nice little jigsaw. It's one of the Dewalt XR brushless ones, and it's a replacement for an old Bosch I had. And Home Depot had a deal where if you bought the batteries, you got the jigsaw free. So basically it was $99, which, you know, I felt was a good price for it. And I did pick up some of their Diablo blades to try too. Now this is replacing an old Bosch jigsaw that I've used for, God, over 20 years I think. It was a really good jigsaw, this one, and I used it in my shop for cutting metal for years before I got my plasma cutter. And it got to the point now where that blade changer really doesn't work anymore. Everything's all stripped out in it, and it takes a half hour to change a blade. And the actual switch there, that variable speed switch, has dead spots in it now, so you have to be careful. And the blower stopped working on it years ago too, so it doesn't clear the sawdust out of the way. But like I said, I abused it for years, cutting metal for, I ran it for an hour at a time and got it red hot, so smoke was coming out of it. And it took the abuse. Now, if I had Bosch batteries, I would have looked for a Bosch battery-operated jigsaw to replace it, but you know, I'm using the Dewalt, so I decided to try the Dewalt. And, you know, I found that a jigsaw was the third tool that I bought when I got into woodworking. First one was a drill, then I bought a circular saw, and then a jigsaw. So, you know, it's a good tool to have. And this one came with a little plastic splinter guard, a blade, and it's just a bare tool that was on the deal. With the battery, it weighs about the same amount as my Bosch did. Now, the batteries you got in this deal were these oversized new ones that are a little bit wider. Here's one of 4 amp hours, and I was going to use that, and if I put it in there, and it's wider than the base of the saw, so I really didn't like it in there. It just didn't look or feel right in there, so I got an old 4 amp hour, one of the bigger, narrower packs. And that one, actually, you can see that's narrower than the base, and it really does feel balanced with that too. And that brings it up to about the same weight as the old Bosch saw. And this one does also have the orbital action for the blade. You can see a little switch here on the side, and it doesn't move if you don't have a blade pushing against it. But there you can see. I'll just put it on maximum and try to operate it slowly there. You can see that little wheel in the back there rocks the blade forward and back to make it cut aggressively when you're cutting straight. And you don't use that on radiuses. And it's got a real easy way to tilt it. And you just flip that lever, and then you just slide the thing forward. And it's got a locking position at 0 and 45 each way. And anything else in between there, you'd have to set up with a gauge. But, you know, it is nice. It goes right back to 0, and it does lock in place nice and tight. Very easy to lock, too, which is really nice. And the base of it actually has a really nice piece of plastic to, you know, help protect your work that you can put on there for delicate work. And if you're going to just be hacking stuff, you can take it off. And there's a little splinter insert that goes in there, and I have not had any luck at getting this to stay in place. It kind of has little tabs that look like they're supposed to lock in place, but they don't seem to be big enough to lock it now. I don't know if I got a defective one or what, but that doesn't look like it's going to be useful. Now, being left-handed, I really appreciate the lock that they put on this trigger. It's one that you just slide it and it's unlocked. You don't have to hold anything. And it also has a nice little adjustment there for the max speed on the variable speed of it. So I think it goes from like 0 to 3,200 strokes per minute. And you can, you know, have divide it down into finer settings with that. So it's really controllable. Has a little work light on it. And the blade change is just, you know, so awesome on it. You just flip that little casting forward in the front and slide the blade in. And that's a Dewalt blade that came with it. It's a T type blade. And you can see just how quick and easy and tight it locks in place. And I had to do a pickup at Home Depot for the saw, so I did stop and pick up a couple of these blades to try too. I've always wanted to try this brand. In the past I've used the Bosch blades, but I've heard good about these, and they were $20 for a 20-piece set, so I can't complain. So I'm just going to put that little guard back on there and, try to do a couple cuts with this and see exactly how it works out. And there's a box it comes in. It's a little box, and you can see this is actually made in Mexico, so, that's a good thing now, I guess. And box is fairly small, and I'll tell you the story in a little while, but they did actually wind up losing my first one in shipping, and this is basically a replacement that I got. But there's the specs on it. It's 0 to 3,200 strokes per minute. It does have a 1-inch stroke length, which is really nice on a Jigsaw too. So I'm just going to grab a couple pieces of wood here, I figured, and try to do some cuts with it. It's the first time using it. And I have the blade that came with it in there now. And I'm going to start with a piece of just cheap 1/2-inch plywood scrap that I had laying around. And I did notice that the saw is really feels good in your hand. It's well balanced and cuts nice. And you can see that blade did a pretty good job. I'm surprised for being an included blade. It did do a nice smooth cut, and you couldn't do a real tight scroll with it or anything, but it did work good. And I got a piece of 3/4-inch plywood here. I'm just gonna try to cut a little radius on there and stuff, and it basically cuts just like my old Bosch. It's got plenty of power. It's does a good job, but it is nice and smooth, and that sawdust blower does work, so that makes it nice. And you can see it, same thing, nice smooth cut on there. And I'm going to move on to a piece of ash here and set this on the highest orbital action. Now, when you're cutting straight, if you want to cut something fast, you can use that orbital. And you can see how fast that blade just kind of rips right through that 1-inch, a little bit over 3/4-inch thick ash there. So that does speed up cutting if you're not, critical about the finish. And you see it does tear out a lot and rip apart a lot, but it's a quick way to cut stuff out roughly. And then this Diablo blade set, I'm just going to grab a couple blades here and try, just see how they work out. And this is one of the scroll saw ones that they have. You notice it's a narrower blade, and it's made for cutting tighter turns. So I'm going to put that in there, and I did grab a piece of walnut to try with that, but it turned out that the blade actually is not long enough. You want your blade to stick, when the blade is all the way retracted, you want it to be longer, sticking out further than the material you're cutting thickness. So I decided to just grab a piece of 1/4-inch plywood here to try with this blade. And, same as everything else, cut nice. I really do like this Jigsaw. You got really good vision. You can see what's going on, and the light, it's really nice having the light on it that my old one didn't have. And like I said, the sawdust blower really did, clean it out. But it's a new saw, so all that stuff should work good. We'll see how it stands up over time. So there it is, just doing just a couple of those squiggly cuts. And you can pretty much do anything with this saw that you can with a, like a benchtop jigsaw. So it's a good start out saw. Jigsaw is a good thing to have in the beginning. And nice cuts, a little bit of fuzz on the top of the cut, but really clean, smooth cut. So those blades seem to work pretty good. And then there was this other blade that had up and down teeth on it. It said, I've never used one of these before, but figured I'll give it a try, and it's supposed to give you a really smooth cut on both surfaces. So I grabbed a piece of walnut, and I'm just gonna make a couple cuts with it. And I did notice you do have to push the saw down a little bit more with this one. And that down cut does have a tendency to push it up a little bit. But you can see it's saw cuts. It's nice and smooth, and it's not too noisy or anything. And the blade did a nice job on the two top and bottom surfaces. You can see there's no tear out there, but the middle is a little bit rough. Where right between the two cuts, right down in there, you can see it's a little bit rough. And same with the cutout piece. The top and bottom edges have no chipping or fuzz, but a little rough in the middle. And there it is with the 4 amp hour battery. It's really pretty balanced, this stuff. And once you get used to these brushless tools and the power that they have, it's hard to go back to the cordless ones, to tell you the truth. I mean, I was originally reluctant to try it because I didn't have good luck with my first Dewalt 18 volt batteries. But so far these have been really holding up good and working out good. And the only thing I did do after making this video is I glued a magnet right in there in the shoe, so I could take the blade out and stand this thing up flat and just drop the blade in there and it would hold it in place. And here you can see over the last couple of years I have been upgrading to all these DeWalt brushless tools, and real happy with every one of them except for the DeWalt Weed Whacker that I bought. That's the only one that's a real bummer, but all the rest of them have been good, and plenty of power and good battery life, and the batteries do recharge good. So going back to the beginning, I originally ordered this around Thanksgiving time, this set, and I bought the battery set there, the 4 and the 6, and the charger in the bag, and you got the free Jigsaw, and Home Depot shipped them out. The batteries came from California and the Jigsaw came from somewhere else, and I didn't get it after about 2 weeks, so I called up and they said, well, wait another week or two. So I did, and I got the batteries finally, and I never got the saw. I called back and they said, oh well, saw was lost in shipping. And the one thing was, it was bought as a package deal, so they couldn't give you a refund on one or the other. And the Jigsaw no longer was in stock online, so they canceled the old order, and they actually gave me a full refund of it. I couldn't believe that, just because you couldn't return one without the other, and it was their fault. And then I went online. I've been watching online, and all of a sudden it popped up that my local store had 11 in stock, and the batteries were back in stock, so I jumped on it quick, and this time I actually got it. So it looks like I did get some extra batteries in the end, and I did wind up getting the original kit that I ordered. So it's actually, looks really nice so far, and as with all my tools, you'll see in follow-up videos just how well they stand up and how good they work. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.